take you over to secondary and question. That's what happened in the Cifuentes case.
Now, does the record show how many cars or what percentage of the cars that are stopped are taken over to secondary?
No, sir, not in my case. It does. Now the
U.S. citizen? Have a good day. Drive safe.
Clemente
I know there are.
is operated in somewhat different fashion sometimes.
They make one stop out of 20.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's correct.
And what were the facts in your case? I'm sure you're going to get to them.
Well, the facts in my case were that the defendant came up to this checkpoint in the early morning hours. They stopped him on a routine basis.
By early morning hours, what time of day?
2 or 3 or 4 in the morning. Yes, sir.
And this checkpoint operates 24 hours
yes,
a day?
Yes, sir, it does, unless they have to close it down for
weather.
Howdy.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
fog or some reason, but it tries to operate 4 hours a day. And the officer walked out and walked up to the car and started talking with the driver. As he got close to the car, he looked down, and in the lying down on the front seat was one man, and on the back seat lying down were 3 men. He couldn't see these men at all until he got right on it. If he had been standing
Have a nice day.
Off to the side observing the traffic passing by, he would not have seen the 3 men lying down on the seat.
They were lying down as if asleep, I think the record shows.
Right, yes, sir. So he asked him, first of all, he determined that the driver was an American citizen, which he was. The driver is native of the town and he's lived there all his life. And next he asked these aliens, and he didn't get a satisfactory response from them. So he took the driver and the aliens to what they call secondary. The aliens were taken in the van, which I believe is shown in the photograph that the government has attached to their brief, and the driver was separated and taken off and interrogated at another place separate from the aliens.
In your statements a few minutes ago, Mr. Bennett, you said something to the effect that there was nothing to indicate that this car had been recently in Mexico or had come from Mexico. Now, suppose there was something to indicate that it had probably just been in Mexico. What effect would you say that would have?
Well, sir, that's when you say probably just been, you mean that it has come directly.
Well, let's suppose on the windshield or somewhere on the car was a sticker about some rodeo that had just been completed the day before. Well, as an example,
any sticker or anything like that could not be observed, Your Honor, until after the stop had been made. If there was some indication, and
maybe the sticker was a bright orange, which the patrol guards could recognize at any distance, 100 feet or less.
Well, I could answer it in this way. I think that the government has a right to stop people if they have reasonable suspicion that they may have been committing an offense.
That was decided last term.
Yes, sir. I don't know that just coming from Mexico would be sufficient to...
Now, let me pursue that, though. Suppose on every car that came by the precise border, a great, large, orange piece of paper as big as your hand would be pasted on the windshield, and the law would require, regulations would require you to keep that on your car for 48 hours after you'd come across the border from Mexico. Every car that passed the border.
Yes, sir.
Anything unconstitutional about that?
No, sir. I don't see anything unconstitutional in it offhand.
Could they then route these cars with the orange sticker on them for inspection 65 miles north of the border?
Well, Yes, sir, I think they could, the theory that you might be going on is that that was a continuation of a border search. Now, of course, they have border searches up in St. Louis because that's better than having to stop and go through everything. But the vice of this checkpoint is, and what we're complaining of is that they're stopping all these people who don't have any relation to the problem that they're searching. They're the ones that get the
Let's get back to my bright orange sticker, the color of this pen. With that bright orange sticker, then you say, as far as you're concerned, there'd be no constitutional barrier to stopping every car that carried that sticker.
Well, now you said for a period of time.
48 hours.
How would they stop and look they date the sticker and put the time and they stop and look at that?
Yes, if after 48 hours the driver hadn't taken the trouble to take it off, which...
U.S. citizen? Have a good day. Drive safe.
On
Yes,
my
sir.
hypothetical regulation, he'd be permitted to do.
I would say that I really offhand don't see any strong objection on constitutional ground. It would be infinitely preferable to stopping everybody that happens to come by this point on the chance that they may have come from the border, which when there are indications that the chances are that they probably didn't come from the border. And I think that reasoning it on a consent basis, if you want to cross the border, you have to consent to this reasonable regulation.
Howdy. How's it going? Thanks.
I feel that a constitutional justification might be made in that context.
Mr. Bennett,
Yes, sir.
in Texas, does the state highway patrol system periodically undertake to check driver's licenses?
Yes, sir, it does.
Does it stop people for that purpose?
Yes, sir, it does.
Is that unconstitutional?
I do not necessarily think that it does. I've been through 3 of those in the last few years. One of them was obviously what it purported to be, a driver's license check. They had what you'd call state troopers or Department of Public Safety men standing on each side, and they had apparently a checklist, and they looked and they asked you for your driver's license. They wanted to see your windshield work. They watched your lights. The 2 others were obviously subterfuges that they were using just to stop you so they could look at you for some reason. In fact, in one of them, I was fumbling around in my pocketbook trying to find my driver's license, which I could never find when I need it. And the man said, "Oh, well, forget it," and turned around and walked off and went back to the next car. Now, I would say that that's obviously unconstitutional. But there's one big...
What's unconstitutional?
To stop you as a subterfuge...
The objective is legitimate. Is that the point you make?
Yes, I think that if they are legitimately checking your driver's license and making an administrative check of your car, I see...
Is it your view that the objective in this case is illegitimate?
No. But it is the idea is to see if people have committed crimes. And
Is it lawful to drive in Texas without having a valid driver's license?
Yes, sir, it is, and they will give you a ticket, presumably, if you don't have it. And sometimes you'll have it and don't have it on you, and they'll give you a ticket, and then you have to go show up, and they'll dismiss the charge.
Well, what is